Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome to the Dan Gheesling podcast, episode 61, and a very unique one to say the least. Before we jump right into it, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Whether you're tuning in from Skokie, Illinois, maybe you're riding bumper cars somewhere in the South Carolinian boardwalk. I appreciate you guys being here. And this podcast could be a little bit different because typically, I talk about what's been going on, what's working, what's not, and I like to, show all sides of the coin. I think I have no better way to explain it other than that. But the past week, it's been a full-on, for the most part, a full-on shutdown. And that for me, that was a very, very difficult pill to swallow, meaning that in terms of production of videos and shows and things like that. So long story short, well, I'll hit you with everything. So Monday we had a show, and the show's been going on for 2.5 years, and I've done shows under the weather, and with the goal is always for people to not know that I'm under the weather or I'm sick or whatever. When I say sick, could be flu or a head cold or whatever. And because the way I view the show on Twitch is that people tune in to get away from stuff, they tune in to get entertained, and that's what it's about. It's not about really anything else. It's not about sympathy, and I gotta be careful I say that because it's not from a lack of appreciation, but that's not what the focus of the show is. So it was a very challenging week, but anyways, Monday we did a show, and right away, if anyone tuned in, they probably got a unique vibe. And typically how we set up the show, they're very action packed. The games are what I like to call highfalutin. Just a lot of stuff going on, whether production or things flying around. And I knew heading into it, I'm like, hey, look, I don't got the gas. Something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong, but in terms of how I'm feeling, I don't know what it is, but I need to play something that's a little bit different. So like anything else, we tried something new, and it was actually it was on the Monday show or the Wednesday show. It was the Monday show. But anyway, so Monday show was like kind of normal, I think. Tuesday I had to cancel Team Unity just because I knew I needed to get some rest. And then Wednesday, I think Wednesday was the different show. Wednesday, we ended up playing a game called Life is Strange, which is like a Telltale game. And to me, it's like I had to kind of find something that was, a little bit, story driven, which is the opposite of how the show normally goes, because I had literally, like the gas in the tank was very minimal. And it actually worked out really well. And I think it was a good change up in terms of playing a story-based show on the game. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And it was like, If I could have picked a perfect game for that situation, I think somehow I kind of stumbled into it. It just really worked out for that moment. But anyways, later on that day, it's for all intents and purposes, it's the most sick I've ever been in my adult life. And I got a couple pet peeves. Really, when I say pet peeves, I got to be careful how I say it. But I got two things that bother me individually. Number one is canceling a show, and my take on canceling a show is one, never do it, and number two, if you do it, there better be a really good reason. And if I've done it in the past, I always do a makeup and then some, so hey, like something unexpected happened we can't do the show Wednesday, we'll go live Thursday and go for an extra hour, something like that. I always try to do that because I don't take that lightly, and I think that's happened, maybe a very small handful of times, but I've never flat out canceled the show. But it got to the point where Friday I had to cancel the show, and I went back and forth on, I wanted to push it as far as I could to see if, hey, all right, maybe I wake up Friday and feel all right. But for all intents and purposes, it's been the most sick I've been in my adult life. I went to the doctors, et cetera, and I wanted to tell people, and I dropped the explanation in the Discord, and I'll pull it up and I'll read it verbatim in case you didn't read it, or you're not in the Discord. But it took me a while to write out why I was canceling the show, because I went back and forth internally on not wanting sympathy for this. It was merely, hey, if I'm going to cancel a show, there's a really, really good reason. And so I wanted to share the reason, but I wanted to share the reason without sympathy, because for me, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit well. Not that I don't appreciate it, and not that I think it's insincere. I really appreciated all the kind messages from the community, but I just, and it's not a judgment thing. For me, I just would never say, hey, like I have the sniffles, I'm canceling a show. It's not how I'm wired. And for people that do it, hey, power to them. It's a no judgment zone. But for me, that doesn't work for me. And so I don't know. That's kind of like my pet peeve. And those two things combined. So I ended up thinking about it and writing out, this message. And I'll read it verbatim. I'll kind of paraphrase it. But it said, hey, guys, just want to keep you updated. This is in Discord. Trying to be as transparent as possible. In 2 years, I don't think I've ever canceled a show. It's something I pride myself on. It means a lot to keep the schedule and do the shows every week. But I'm going to call off today's show. This would have been Friday. I thought I posted it the night before. I must have wrote it the night before and didn't post it. No, call off tomorrow's show. Okay, I did do it the night before. Went to the doctor, found I had pneumonia. I didn't even know what that was. And I didn't know what it was. I thought pneumonia was something you got from like a derivative of like hypothermia or something. I never knew what it was. But anyways, I didn't even know what it was. I share this not because of sympathy. That alone made me not want to share it. I really debated typing this message, but because you got to wake up pretty early in the morning to cancel a show, I wanted to tie some lightheartedness into this, just because I just don't like sharing this kind of stuff at all. But I want you to know that the reason there'll be no show tomorrow and why I haven't been on social media, YouTube videos, is because of that reason. And so I hope everyone has a great weekend. So I posted that because I really, I just couldn't do the show. And so as a result of that, this week, a lot of things, crumbled is not the right answer, but you guys have known, you've heard me mention it a little bit. I've had like a 60 plus week running challenge, running 2 miles a day, 5 days a week for 60 weeks. That tanked. I couldn't run. So that was like extremely disappointing. But at the same time, I was like, what am I going to do? I think I ran. So I knew I was starting to get sick on Sunday. And I'm like, okay, I still have to run on Sunday. So I powered through that. And I'm like, okay, I'll take Monday and Tuesday off. And I'll be better by Wednesday and kind of run the rest of the days that week. And it just never got any better. So that was like, I was a little bit upset about that. But then kind of, got acceptance with it. There's been 4 days on YouTube without any videos, which I couldn't do anything. It's really, for someone like me, it's really hard to be like, hey, like, don't do anything. You have to rest. It's very, very difficult. And so that went down, and then I canceled a Twitch show. So, I think maybe on a very micro level, it was a disappointing week. It was a challenging week. In terms of the grand scheme of things, I look at it on a different angle. I was extremely grateful, right? Like, I'm grateful that, I already feel better. I'm grateful that, it wasn't something more serious. I'm grateful that the support of the community, just that people were cool with it. People understood. But I don't know. I've been doing this since 2012. So it's 7 years. And I have no other way to think about it but playing the card, right? Like playing the sick card. And, like I said, in my adult life, I've never been this sick, but it's just not something, that I really enjoy doing. I don't think anyone enjoys being sick, but it was just the first time where I've been like, hey, Dan, like, you can't make stuff. You can't do shows and you can't do videos. And it made me just feel very grateful for the fact that, I am healthy and that I do have the ability to do this, and that people were very understanding. And, I don't know, it made me analyze a couple things. I didn't really have, much else to do, but just kind of analyzing the expectations that I have, I think, for production in terms of what I do, and also to make sure that they're in a line with that I'm not, burning the candle on both ends so something like this doesn't happen again. And I don't think there's any way that, I could ever tell if it's self-caused, right? Like it's not like, um, how do you know if you cause yourself to get something? I don't think that's what I'm talking about, but just just being maybe a little more conscious of, hey, like you maybe take a little bit more time just to focus on taking care of yourself, whether it's eating maybe a little bit better or sleeping a little bit better. I think to have, I don't know, it's not taken away as being a little dramatic, but to not be able to do it for a couple days, and amongst not being able to do other things, I'm like, yo, this is not really something I want to continue by any stretch of the imagination. And I think it also allowed me to be a little bit more empathetic for people that are sick in varying capacities, in a lot sicker fashion than I am, and not even closely, but and I think for me it was not hard to empathize. You see someone sick, you feel bad for them, but you don't really know until you kind of go through and be like, man, this is it's a tough deal. So it was for me, I took it as a learning experience, and also I learned a ton. Super grateful for the team that's in place. They, there was a lot of things that on my end that were dropped this week, and I just kind of filled them in and said, hey, just keep it business as usual. Tyler and running the podcast, and Zane. I know Tyler picked up a few intros and things like that. I just really appreciate it, and to me, it really also, in particular on the YouTube side, I think it ended up being. Let me give you the exact answer on this, but I think it's been, realistically, Zane put up a video on Friday, which was a Twitch edit. But it's been, on Monday, it'll be 7 days. It'll be a full week, the longest it's ever been on YouTube without a video. And so for me, going through these, this past week, to me, it stretched the importance of having an emergency backlog, or a backlog at least at minimum like 3 to 4 days, because you just never know what can happen. And I don't know, I think on a macro level, long-term level, do I think this will affect the channel? No. Do I think on a micro level? Do I think, well, yeah, of course. And so bottom line is, if I can prevent, at least on the YouTube side of things, for if something unexpected happens, are there things on the YouTube side you can 100% preventively do? Like I can 100% prevent that from happening, to at least get by myself a few days. And so I think that, I just take it as a huge learning experience. Even recording this podcast is the first thing that I've done, since being out of commission. And, I there's a, other thing in terms of, canceling Unity on Tuesday. I feel like, you let, people, the community down from watching, but also, I let 3 other people down that were counting on me to be there. And, we're in the middle of a game, and it just, I think in the grand scheme of things, like I'm very hard on myself is not the right answer, because I think it's the difference between hard on yourself and having strong expectations. I think I have very strong expectations on what I expect to do. And I think what if the biggest thing I walk away from this is that it's even direly more important now to be more efficient with my time than ever, because I've been fortunate enough that this is a variable in my life that I haven't had to deal with, and really fortunate that there hasn't been, I can't even translate this to like a something serious, even more serious, but you just never know what can happen. And to me, you put so much time and effort into this, there's got to be some kind of like contingency or backup plans in the event that something like this happens. And so I think it was good. It's given me a chance to kind of take a step back and look, and also, be excited and be grateful to get things rolling again. And so I don't know, there's a ton more, that we could talk about on the podcast today, but I really just wanted to focus on this, and because it's just such a rare thing, and to rare in terms of on my end, right? And so to be able to go through it and share it with you, And I'm sure there's things that you may be listening to, like, Dan, not this crazy, but take a look at it this way or this way, or I don't know. You guys know me. I like to share all aspects of what's going on, not just kind of what's good and what's the variables that are working and that are not. This is something that was unplanned, and it got to a point. It's like, all right, what are you going to do about it? And I feel like for me, at the point when I called the show, I think it was late Thursday night, that's when I kind of knew, like, hey, all right, now you literally got to take a couple days off here and and just take it from there. So it's gonna definitely be a shorter podcast today, but I wanted to get this out and let you guys know everything's fine. Like, I'm fine. Everything's it's not a huge deal, but I wanted to take this time to share with you guys that sometimes stuff happens, and maybe you may look at it like, hey, I'm healthy right now, and what can I do as a contingency plan for whatever I'm doing. The one thing I wanted to share about this is, like, my biggest thing is, like, the show goes on, right? Like you do your thing. I didn't want this to be a dramatic thing. I didn't want it to be like an over the top thing. I'm super grateful that I thought it was the flu, and my wife was like, you should probably go in, and I'm glad I did, because for a couple of reasons. One, now I can get back started sooner, and two, you found out what the problem is. With that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm really looking forward to getting everything back to normal this week. Everything from YouTube videos, I all but disappeared on social media. We had a good change up on Instagram, like nothing. I tweeted a little bit, but I think there was a point, I think at Friday, maybe Thursday, when I canceled. I'm like, okay, hey, look, like, this is what's happening. Like, accept it, and take the time to actually rest. And I feel like that is the one thing that that at least I learned, and I feel like a positive thing that I can share with you, is that when it is time to rest and you kind of come to that realization, like, do it, and don't, like, shortchange it by trying to work. And I feel like that's one of the things that at least I don't want to call smart enough to do, but I was smart enough to not, like, push it and not, like, go in, because I just knew, sometimes you listen to yourself or your body, and you be like, all right, it's time. Like, the streak's gonna end. There's no more running. You got to cancel a show, but the real question is, what are you gonna do about it, right? So either be like, oh, I haven't posted a video in 7 days. It's things are gonna collapse or whatever. It's no, you deal with it just like anything else. It's not the ideal situation. Feel fortunate for what you do have and the opportunities you do have, and you kind of move on. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great week. I'm excited to be back, and I feel good. And I just want to thank you guys. Thank you guys for the support. I know there are some people in the Discord or saw on Twitter or on Instagram, about everything that happened in the past week. I just want to thank you for the kind messages. I truly appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great week. I look forward to seeing you guys at the shows, or on Twitter, or on Discord, or in the DMs. And I will talk to you guys next week. Later.